Welcome to Beautiful Black Books, brought to you again by the Poetry Center San Jose. Thanks for those who are joining us today and those that will join us later on via social media. Just a quick note, Beautiful Black Books, BBB. This is a reoccurring program featuring Black writers in conversation, followed by Q&A. The view here, really the aim is that this is a vessel of exchange. We want to bring Black writers into our communities and our communities to these writers to learn about their sources of inspiration that were formative to them. Just again, having conversation with these artists that sometimes wouldn't happen in other genres. So today, I am honored, I am blessed, I am ecstatic to join in conversation here with Tongo. I mean, I'm going to read his bio, but like this probably is just a microcosm of what this brother does. But it says here, originally from San Francisco, Tongo Eisen-Martin is a poet, a movement worker, and educator. His latest curriculum of extrajudicial killing of Black people, We Charge Genocide Again, has been used as an educational and organizing tool throughout the country. His book, titled Someone's Dead Already, was nominated for a California Bookstore Award. His book, Heaven is All Goodbyes, was published by the City Lights Pockets Poet Series and was shortlisted for the Griffins Poetry Prize and won a California Book Award and an American Book Award. He's got, he's got titles. His latest book, Blood on the Fog, was released this fall in City Lights Pocket Poet Series and is named one of New York Times Poetry Books of the Year. In 2020, he co-founded Black Freighter Press to publish revolutionary work. She is San Francisco's 8th poet laureate. There is the book there. I say this, you were always working, always doing things. So I feel like this is just a snapshot of the kind of work that you do for community. But I'm gonna jump in. Thanks for joining us today. But I'm gonna jump in. Your book says that you're a movement worker. Like how do you define a movement worker?
Man, if I may take the gloves off first thing in the morning,
Let's do it. That's what this is about.
I mean, really movement worker really just means revolutionary. I just believe that the current arrangement of power, or the current arrangement of power that flows from centuries of empire making and maintenance is unacceptable. and so I pledge my every waking moment to a true social transformation.
I hear you.
That's the kind of the guiding synthesis,
So when you talk about that, when you think about this movement and sort of, not only highlighting but breaking apart this sort of empire view, how did sort of poetry, how did poetry and the writing come into this realm? I liken it a lot to James Baldwin, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But how did you make that transition to articulate that through word?
Well, they go hand in hand in that kind of, so like a really a revolutionary objective where it's really just total humanization of everyone. And part of that humanization is access or reabsorption of all of your social powers, right? So as we, in order to survive a capitalist society or imperialist society, you have to kind of conform to a compartmentalization. When you're in a situation where your output, your labor, your decisions, your social power gets bought or stolen, you know what I mean? Coerced away from you in various ways. Internally, it puts you into you know, I don't want to say split personalities, but you live in kind of various pockets of de-animation. So the kind of, you know, as both kind of like objective and program, the reabsorption of our total psyche is the you know, is the prescription. So, you know, poetry is a beautiful tool of humanization in that very fundamental human right power to define yourself and define your world. A lot of oppression begins with that, you know, kind of again, I'd say a de-animation, to where, you know, here, yes, you can have your mind, but this is your mind forced to articulate an awareness of self and awareness of the world, that is imposed by this superstructure. So this kind of the important first step of consciousness to, you know, to declare and then make praxis out of my right to name what's going on and what needs to happen, is crucial, and is then like heavily helped by writing, by poetry. That's on the internals, on just for me, right? But also, as you know, a kind of a tool of social analysis itself. You know, poetry can take kind of these, you know, take the, I don't even want to say more complex, but more kind of like these realities of violence.
Right.
You know, it's because it's you know, what's overwhelming. Yes, you can, some might find a few words overwhelming, but what all will find overwhelming is the mountains and mountains of violence that reproduces this reality. So when you take the you know, when you take almost like the sift of poetry, it makes kind of this analysis more you know, possible. Really, you know, to really to embrace the totality of what's going on, to understand the totality of what's going on, to kind of take the edge off of this perpetual explosion. Poetry is good, is a good, really a kind of a tool of consciousness building. And it's also, you know, it's you know, because it naturally exists, you know, just in, I mean, to pick up the pen is to declare reality malleable.
Right. Yes.
And so this also, you know, is good for consciousness. You know, you can't lose. You know?
You know, it's funny because I don't remember where I read this, but I've always believed when they talk about history, right? You don't go to the history books, you go to the poets of the time, right? Because there's no tie to any particular agenda. That's where the truth is. You know, and I was telling Rob, I was ill over these last 2 days, and I think it just gave me time because I couldn't do anything else. It just gave my mind time to run, you know, and I started thinking about all these Baldwin quotes, and one thing came to mind after reading. There's a piece to you in your book called Lower Class Artist Imagines. And just for those who, I'm just gonna give you an excerpt of this because y'all need to go buy the book. Grip my heart tighter, Lord, and help me write on the sleeve, like listening to Nina Simone later in life. And this is the piece here. The poet takes over for his former self the secret to writing poem is to not deflect. If you do not know anything fretted about the color blue, don't go calling yourself a child at heart. If you have never improvised an elevator ride, don't go calling yourself in need of prayer. And what that, and I mean, that's just amazing with itself. There's so much to unpack in that alone. But what it made me think of is this Baldwin quote where he says the precise role of an artist is to illuminate the darkness, blaze roads through that vast forest so that we will not, in all our doing, lose sight of its purpose, which is, after all, to make the world a more human dwelling place. Is that when you look at sort of the role of an artist, the role of a poet, and when I kind of put them all together, what is your thought of the role that we should be taking in the world?
Well, man, being such dutiful confidants of reality, and all of its kind of all of its nuanced parties. I think with what our historical task right now is really to lend our powers to a revolutionary praxis. So to join revolutionary movement on its terms and according to solid laws of organizing, or solid laws of humanizing, and let praxis kind of guide our individual adventure, as opposed to trying to figure out how best to make a kind of a bourgeois orientation to craft noble, really just kind of really vanguarding an entrance.
Right.
Almost vanguarding the recruitment. You know what I mean? We don't have to call the shots, you know what I mean? But we could definitely be the one, leading folks to enter in the historical process critically. Because there's no other, there's not too many more truths to be told right now, other than that. If we don't facilitate a true social transformation, yesterday, the biosphere is over. And so I'm a little heavy-handed. I would throw uniforms on you all. Now wear what you want. Wear whatever you like, But definitely have to there's no life outside of movement at this point.
Got it. You said that you're a little heavy-handed with it. And when I listen to your work, I hear like it's like symphony played through a machine gun. And it's beautiful, but it hits hard, right? And so talk to me a little bit about your process when writing a poem. Like what, and that's part of what I would love to sort of unpack. Like, are you sitting down and thinking of there's this topic that I need to address, and that's where the poem comes from, or is it more organic than that?
I start really small. I just look for a couple words, a few words that have either have a ring to them or a weight to them, and then I just kind of excavate around them, see what mountain range they belong to. But I rarely, I very, very, very rarely start with the whole idea first.
Yeah, going into a moment and then pulling it out. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. That's what I've been working on too. Just looking at that you know, whether it's that smell or it's that like you said, that word, that sound, and then sort of building on top of that. So I'm
Right. Like, you know, sorry, I got my hands on this, like all these stack of Coltrane quotes.
mm,
And lucky for me, he said one thing he said about he was breaking down his approaches to soloing, and he said when he was soloing, he'd rarely see the entirety of the solo. He'd really just kind of move location to location, you know, running whatever experiments were to be ran with that little location, and then moving on. Or he might have like understand the song as having like kind of landmarks or landing places, you know, that he would, you know, that he knew he could build towards, or this type of thing. But for the most part, it's the kind of it's the experiment of the present moment, of that present tinker, that drives that drives the muscle. But now, you know, I that's just me. You know, you know, I'm always in awe of those like masterminds. You know what I mean? I'm trench to trench.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and everyone is part of this whole process. Everyone has their procedure, has their process, right? It likens to it was going back to a quote, right? Miles Davis was talking about jazz, and it just really made me kind of completely turn around the way that you know I not only listen to work, but how I put work forward. Is he was saying that if you're on a stage and you play a G, when it's left the trumpet, it's a G, but by the time it gets through the air and finds itself to the audience, it's slightly different.
Mm.
And so what he's playing to is that, not what's coming out of not what's coming immediately out of his on the trumpet at that moment. And it makes me think what you just said just makes me think of that in the sense of like, you know, really working with how the work is being absorbed, right? And so question for you. When did poetry start for you? Did you write as a child? Did it come easy?
Yes, it came very easy, bro. You know, I mean, well, you know, we were man, lucky to be born to hip hop, you know.
Yes.
So, you know, word art was you know, was uh was almost you know, I'm trying to figure out what's the layer under the layer under the layer of the skin, you know, as far as just like our engagement, our kind of our cultural understanding of the world. And so they're just that kind of, you know, it's almost as natural as thinking itself. But I just it was a Langston Hughes poem that set it off. And you know, it was even like a school assignment. I wrote we wrote a poem in response. And there was a little shift in my my experience of the you know, and my experience of reality kind of changed a little bit as I was writing, at least as kind of foreshadow, you know. And I wasn't really so much like giddy off of accolade, although the poem was well received. I was the man that day. but I was the man that 20 minutes. But you know, I was lucky in that, like it did feel different. It felt like a different way of thinking. It felt like a different way of existing. And so just over time, it's it's just a matter of getting to know that planet. That's really the kind of the journey of craft. But I went through little phases, wrote writing my little rhymes, I had my little, man, we had me and my brother had a little rap group called Black Fire, man. We was writing, had our little political raps, rapping to the Chubb Rock beat.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even had a gangster rap phase, right?
Okay.
Right,
We need to see that book.
man. I'm gonna bring it back, man, somehow. And just over time, you just keep bouncing, I guess, kind of like influence to influence, until your voice becomes the most central protagonist.
Yes. That is so, I feel like that is so important, especially in the world there's so much noise, out there. And I'm not saying all the noise is bad, but there's this natural tendency to levitate to certain things, and then you become that thing, and then you've lost your voice within that thing, and it's just a repetition of it, and if they go left, you go left, and so you don't have a foundation to stand on. But when I look at, just for the folks that are on the call now and will see this later on, especially our younger folks, right? Because especially with this project I'm working on, you'll get the assignments in school, you start writing, like you said, they had a little rap group. I think, I had 3 of them at different with terrible names, but running around Brooklyn like I was it, and people. But like, how do you make that step? Like, what was that moment when you were like, okay, this is cool and this is fun, to, okay, we need to change some shit?
Well, I was very much a late bloomer, and because I've had this kind of sometimes immature commitment to praxis. Not saying heroically, making sure that I walk the talk at all times.
Right.
But I was the artist just didn't seem to be just didn't seem to be a powerful enough protagonist,
right,
in for the historical task.
Yeah.
And so while I always had poems, and always had, a poetry home to go to.
Okay.
I was more I was more preoccupied with just with whether it was teaching in jails or whatever the organizing task was. That was more central to my kind of like evaluation of myself. And it was over time, it just moved to a more central location in my self identity. And then I think where I got lucky was it really solidified itself through just the daily writing practice.
Right.
So like I am centrally a poet, as just as a creature who writes daily, not as a kind of some kind of quest for public fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important, because at least some of what I've been seeing in sort of the way things are developing is exactly that. Folks are writing toward this thing as opposed to just writing. You know what I mean?
And I understand. We understand. You
Oh,
know
yeah,
what
I
I
mean,
mean?
look, it's
Yeah,
a,
yeah, we understand. You
yeah,
know,
I get it.
that's
I get
that's
it.
a, that's you know that voice will never go away. But you
Right.
got to make sure you feed the other voices. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a commoditized economy, right? So I mean, that's we're all gonna always gonna push to that. But like you said, just making sure to feed that other side of it. So we're gonna get into a little bit. I got maybe two more questions, and then we'll get down into you reading, spending some time and giving us some jewels from your book. But one question I do have for you is, well, a couple. Um, what what does your family think of your writing?
Well, which wing? Which
Whatever,
faction?
whatever you want to talk about, whatever.
Oh well, you know, all factions agree I am the greatest poet the family has ever had.
I feel that. That's good. Yeah, you get support. I mean, it's like I get to the question comes.
Actually, you know what? Some might disagree. I'll take that back. We had some pretty man, we have some pretty interesting intellectuals, man.
That's good. That's good. Something to be able to
I'm
bounce
the
off.
hardest working poet that the family has ever had.
There you go. That I'm sure. I'm sure. No, see, I've asked this question to a number of folks, and you get back everything from, like you said, they think I'm the best thing in the world, to they don't even read my stuff. you know, like I try to show them, look at me at so and so and so and so, and they're just like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
good for you. You know what I mean? So, yeah, just this is kind of the support you get back and forth from there. So
It's good though, man. It keeps you, keeps you centered, man. Keeps you humble.
yeah, and it keeps you
Hey, you
rooted.
want to know how you really doing in the world? Go to the family reunion and see if anybody asks you to say a poem.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, he doing that thing.
Right.
Pass the chicken.
I really just came from a family reunion. That would be zero. You know what I mean? I got 0 poem requests,
Yes.
but that's okay, man.
Yeah,
Next year.
exactly. there's always a goal. Always a goal.
There
Trust me.
you
There's
go,
many of people out here, dying to hear you read. So
man.
it's all good.
If you can make it at the barbecue,
That's
you can make it anywhere.
that's true though. That is true. If you can make it at the barbecue, if you can either get people to stop dancing or stop eating to do this.
I'm gonna tell you what, man. If you can defeat the electric slide, man.
You have made it.
You have made it, man. You are the greatest to ever live. If you can defeat the electric slide,
that is so true.
man.
Or the bus stop for some of y'all out there that maybe
right. All depending on where you are, depending on region, you know
exactly.
what I mean?
Exactly. That's so true though. That's so true. All right. So one more before we get into two more before we get into you reading the book. I'm going into reading some of the work on the book. The Blood from the Fog. Where did the title come from? Well, two questions here. Where did the title come from? And in your eyes, what is the purpose of this book?
So the title came from the last line of a poem. I'll say it for you all in a second. But this poem called "The Possibility of Being One Person," and it's a kind of a dream, the relation of a dream about really a kind of one metaphor for the existence of a brother that of kind of a destruction enjoyed,
Mm.
to be the kind of this, what do they call it, gallows humor. So it's kind of like a human sacrifice. the, the
Yeah.
humor the humor of the human sacrifice, and so that's the last line of that poem. There's it went, I mean, the book very much is one of its composites is a composite of last words.
Okay. Oh.
And that front row seat was heavy. It's a heavy thread through the book, but ultimately, as far as just like purpose, really just trying to do as right by the human journey as I can.
Yeah.
And dealing with this kind of, and that, so that synthesis, it features, this push to expand the potentials of language, and also a presentation of the truer faces of this society, and especially this kind of extra, this heightening fascism, or this return.
Right.
Or really this kind of this latest batch. Just kind of smell what these imperialists are cooking.
Yeah.
Now, what they've been cooking recently. So it's every book is really just a day in the life. But I think, like, if I even could, if a book could accomplish something, it would just be, to just kind of offer an example, offer yourself up as a some kind of, like, avatar of resistance, avatar of revolution, but delivered through vulnerability, So it's kind of, really, really, poetry being bloodless,
Right.
being contactless sport, the least I can do.
Right.
The least I can do is walk into the walk into the room with no personal territory to be enforced,
Right.
and to just offer just offer yourself completely, to the mass imagination, So that, I think, when I when I think on it, to further improvise an answer, it's just kind of like, man, it's vulnerable last words.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Of course, I took it the simplest of ways. When I thought fog, I thought San Francisco. I saw blood on the fog. I was like, okay, that makes sense.
I triple entendre the damn thing up. For sure. That's hey, At all times, there are 5 underground railroads running through one line. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's
Oh,
right.
that's for sure. Oh, that's for sure.
Indeed, indeed. And the last thing I'm gonna ask you before we give you some time to read, if this book, if Blood on the Fog, that's the one y'all need to go get. It's the most recent one. If it was an actor or a singer, who would it be?
Ooh, you got actor or singer.
Yeah.
Um,
Or I mean, yeah. Actually,
and it'd be my brother, Tongo Eisen-Martin.
really.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Man, shout out to him. Nah, he's a man. He really my poetry is me doing my best Biko impression.
That's what's up. That is what's up. And he did the cover, no? The cover
Yeah,
art.
he also did the cover art. Yeah.
That is fantastic. All right, brother. I'm gonna give you some time for me to stop, pounding you with questions and read some of your work. So the stage is yours.
Right on. Well, I had this dream. Planted dead in the weekday that I was laid up in the hospital. And people kept coming into my room by the dozens. And each dozen had special handshakes for each other and occasionally current dance moves. And they would kick my hospital bed from time to time to let me know that they would be dancing from this hospital room on out to my grave. Strange cha-chas and soft shoe shuffles, disco spins like they were dancing for a white sundial, marking numbness in their feet drum race riot. And I was ready to die because, ask a musician in the tombs after court, it's the surroundings that is the uniform. But I just couldn't bring myself to visualize against God. One of them stood over me like a conductor, waving their arms over my body, directing my heart to beat fainter and fainter, directing the tubes to turn the fluids back. And I faded from consciousness with thud after thud on the legs of my bed as they danced wilder and wilder, well, wild but meek, or artificially meek, like an artificial pastor told them to be. I was to be a projection and some kind of character to be laid at their feet. You're the only one participating in the revolution today, they mocked. And I was ready to go because there are plenty of pianos that could use a new soul. And I'm thinking we're supposed to be in the revolution for as long as it takes. So you can punch me out now. I was born with one foot in a lime pit anyway, but hey, check it out. No one bothered to ask the doctors if I was really dead. Too busy strutting, too busy kissing. I kept fading and fading with only enough breath and sweet consciousness to count their smiles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I heard a voice, a whisper, and it was counting with me. 6, we said. 7, we said. 8. Then another joined us. 9, 10, then another. See, I haven't been eating, mama. I've been in a trance. I haven't been sleeping. I've been washing my face off the port of Charleston. There is blood on the fog. First, I should have apologized. I must apologize to the souls of the house because I'm wearing the cheekbones of the mask only, like a pill bottle whose name is yours, name tagged on the side of a factory of wrists. I mean, teeth of the mask now, back of the head of the mask now. A new phase of anti-anthropomorphism, fending for real faces. Stuck with one of those cultures that believes I chose this family. I'm not creative, just the silliest of the revolutionaries. My blood drying on my only jacket, the police state psychic middleman, evangelizing for the creation of an unmasses, an unmedgar, blood of a lamb less racialized or awesome prison sentence, right angle made between a point on a Louisiana plantation and a 5-year-old's rubber ball 3 feet high and falling like a deportee plane to complete my interpretation of garden variety genocide. I'm small talk about loving your enemies a little more realistically, about paper tigers and also gold. I need my left hand back. Broke my neck on a piano key, found paradise on a fist fight. Maybe I should check into the Cuba line. Watching the universe last metronome, some call Black Jacobins. They just wait. These religions will start resigning in a decade or two. Some colorfully, some transactionally. In a cotton Gothic society, class betrayal gone glasses. I mean, ironically, my window started fogging over too as I was trying to figure out which Haiti would get me through the winter, which poem houses souls, which socialist breakthroughs like taking 10 steps back, then finally trying stillness, like introducing Gabriel Prosper to Thelonious Monk. I remember childhood, remember the word childhood being a beginning, scribbling on an amazing grace. I rented this body from some circumference of slavery. Remember being kicked out the Midwest. Strange fruit theater, lithium in circuses, like-minded stomachs, the ruling class blessing their blank checks with levy phone, with opioid tea, sentient dollar bills yelling to each other pocket to pocket. Cello stands in the precinct for a company of counter-revolutionaries. My mother raised me with a simple pain. The poet loses his mind. Like the room has weather. Or first girlfriend, gravity. Difference between me and you is the madness wants me forever. A pair of apartments defining both my family and political composure. Books behind my back, bail money paved into the streets, playing euphoria, euphoria, cliche. Bracing for the medicines, recoil. Sharing a dirty deli sandwich with my friends, Black Jacobins, underground topography of a grandmother's hand, psychology of the mask now. Teeth of the mask again. I talk facing away from the dead. They replace me with the change in my pocket, a penny that's yet to be invented. They say you have to know how to cut a throat on the way to cutting a throat. After sleeping on a mattress made from 2 garbage bags of clothes, I became content with the small gestures of plantation fires. I mean, playing with couch ashes, I realized how weird the universe was. It exists in so many places, so many random things. It interrupts me while I'm trying to dream, like your clay correspondence, Lord. To be transparent, I have 20 books next to a book, like an old man giving advice at the beginning of a revolution. I've really done it, Lord. Explored the mumbles of my mind. Explored what's naturally there. And I found no brainwashing. I found Africa, Lord. I have a future. It takes place in the diasporic South. I have morning possessions. Modern militancy, I mean, windows to the South. I'll walk on a missile for food. I guess you will not want flowers for a few years, Lord. Hey, will I be tied face to face with the country I murder? Emerge with us, Lord. Our old metal versus new metal. Our old metal versus a pool of meandering imperialist faces. A multiculturalism of sorts. The dead replaced me with a comedian's chest cavity instead of a chest cavity held tight. It takes a violent middleman for me to talk to myself. Stories that travel through other people's stories. A song about a song, a hemisphere about a hemisphere. Stories that travel through a conquered poet. Hey, my mother remembers Africa, Lord. She killed on behalf of you, Lord. I wore a machete all winter and no one asked me what it meant. I read 1,000 books in front of the world. What I do is fight poems and sleep through decadent San Francisco prayer circles. Watch people play for post-working class associative surfaces or recreations of a governor's desk, ruling class art of utility, playing find a sociopathic bureaucrat. Today, some white people scare even easier. TV in the basket next to a ceramic baby, wearing ceramic armor, musket progeny, fantasizing through the art of the poor, their trendy latches locked before God. Black art hunted down like a dog. Hand over my friends, Lord. Lord, I think I'm gonna die in a war. Unelected white people in my small house like a blues song of no spiritual effect, or Dollhouse H-bomb, or pony show near dead bodies, apartheid weddings that go right, apartheid white people who give birth to mathematicians, the spiritual continuity of barracks and police stations, the chemical interpretation of a Sunday trip to church smells in their pockets, a river mistaken for a talking river, no autobiography aside, small personal victories of violence and drug use, made in the image of God trinkets, white abolitionists confided in their children by chemical assurances that they will switch from Black artists to white artists, from Black God to white God. from black worker to white worker. You know, I think about you cautiously, Lord. The same way I think about my childhood, Lord. Hey, Foxhole Friday nights, most of life is mute. A comedian points out a planet's field to a priest, king, sugar cane, king, cotton king, revolutionary, the bottle essential, containing all modes of shallow introduction, introducing an unlisted planet class, speaking about fevers and balance sheets and reassuring the masses that we could figure out our fathers later. A priest took my mother lightly, Lord. Stood in front of parishioners, re-raveling fantasies about black art. Priest reading confidently before I broke him and broke his parallel. You know, after the day, I've never been a poet before. A little brother watches his big brother's friends. They lean rifles on shelter walls. They agree with me and call it literature. It's a simple matter, this revolution thing. To really lie to no one, to keep nothing godlike, to write a poem for God. I go to the railroad tracks and follow them to the station of my enemies. A cobalt-toothed man pitches pennies at my mugshot negative. All over the United States, there are toddlers in the rock. I see why everyone out here got in the big cosmic basket and why blood agreements mean a lot and why I get shot back at. I understand the psycho-spiritual refusal to write white history and take the glass freeway. White skin tattooed on my right forearm. Ricochet sewers near where I collapsed into a rat-infested manhood. My new existence is living graffiti. In a kitchen with a lot of gun cylinders to hack up. House of God in part, no cops in part. My body brings down to Christmas. The new bullets, pray over blankets made from the old bullets. Pray over the 28th hour's next beauty mark. Extrajudicial Confederate statue restoration. The waistband before the next protest poster. Hey, by the way, time is not an illusion, Your Honor. I will save your death for last. You were witty, Your Honor. You're moving money again, Your Honor. It's only raining one thing. Non-white cops and prison guard shadows reminded me of spoiled milk floating on an oil spill. The neighborhood making a lot of fuss over its demise. A new lake for a Black Panther party. Malcolm X's ballroom jacket slung over my son's shoulder, the figment of village. A new news to a new white preacher, all in an abstract painting of a president. Bought slavery some time, didn't it? The tantric screeches of military boats and election Tuesday cars, a cold-blooded study in leg irons, proof that some white people have actually found the nooses that sundown couples make their vows of love over opaque piece plastic and vote action audiences. The Medgar of a second is definitely my favorite law of science. Found news clippings and primitive Methodists, my arm changes imperialisms, simple policing versus structural frenzies, elementary school script versus even wider white spectrums, artless bleeding and the challenge of watching civilians think, terrible rituals they have around the corner. They let their elders beg for public mercy. I'm gonna go ahead and sharpen these kids' heads in the arrows myself and see how much gravy spills out of family crest. Modern fans of war. Well, we're with their t-shirt poems and t-shirt guilt and me having on the cheapest pair of shoes on the bus. I have no choice but to read the city walls for signs of my life. You know, all street life, to a certain extent, starts fair. Sometimes with a spiritual memory even. Pre-dawn soul clap, your father dying even. Maybe I pushed the city too far. My sensitivities to landfill districting and minstrel whistles, white supremacist graffiti on westbound rail guards all over coming reauthored by revolutionary violence. It chose its own protagonist or muted stage of genius. The garbage is growing voices. Condensed Marxism for warrior depressives, underpasses in their pockets because they just might be deities, a decent bid on the Panther name, a merciful Marxism. Disquieted home life, a metaphor for relaxing next to a person who is relaxing next to a gun. I stare at my father for a few seconds, then return to my upbringing. Return to the souls of Ohio Black folk. Revolution down there pagan at this point. You know what the clown wants? The respect of the ant. Wants to interpret pain only. Wants to pull a 38 out of a begging bowl. Wants me to hurt my hand on this pen. I mean, I'm not tired of these rooms. Just tired of the world to give them relativity. My only change of clothes prosecuted, the government finally learned how to write poems. Shootouts that briefly align and make up a parable, or parables like white bodies are paid well. Do white men even have leaders? Are all white people white men? A rat pictures a river. Can almost taste the racial divide. Can almost roll a family member's head into a city hall legislative chamber. I mean, those who in this good book will fly. All All I do is practice, Lord. Decided not to talk out of anger ever again. Met my wife at the same time I met new audience members for our pain. We passed each other cigarettes and watched cops win. A city gone uniquely linear. Harlem of the West, do a true universe. I'll always remember you in fancy clothes, my wife said. So here I sit, twisting in silk ideation. Rifle made of post-bellum tar, targets made of an honest language. This San Francisco poetry is how God knows it is me whining. I mean, riding among the lesser respected wolves, lesser observed militarization, Dixie-less prison bookkeeping. I mean, the California gray coats are coming. Lynch mob gossip and bourgeois debt collection. I mean, it's tempting to change professions mid-poem. In a Chicago briefing, a white sergeant saying blank slate for all of us after this black organizer is dead. Standard academics toasting $2 wine at the tank parade. Bay of nothing, Lord, just nuclear cobblestone, gunline athleticism, and the last of the inherited asthma. Children giving white dolls to play with and fear, facial expressions borrowed from rich people's shoestrings. I can hear hate and teach hate and call tools by people names and name people dead to themselves. No one get naturalized except federal agents soon. Carve the equator in the throat soon. I'm sorry to make you relive all this, Lord. All this pre-dime monarchy friends putting up politician posters and snorting the remainder of the pace, minstrel script shoved into the walls by their elders, my children sharpening quarters on the city's edge. For these audiences, I project myself into a ghost-like state. For these gangsters, I do the same. Every now and then, take a nervous look east. Sleep becomes Christ. Sleep starts growing a racial identity. Do you ever spiral, Lord? Has the gang age betrayed us? Be patient with my poems, Lord. So much pain is a point to crime. I mean, it has to be if race traders come with it. Lord, is that my revolver in your hand? You know, better presidents than these have yawned at cages, have called us holy slaves, filled the school libraries with cop documentaries. Baby, I don't have money for food. Well, I have no present moment at all. These societies wander together like hopeful drops of a virus. Citizen testaments bent on offering me a nation of breadwinners to hold me back like it's a Brinks. I wrinkle the concrete sometimes like flesh. My Martin Luther King permanence turned away from a podium into the reeds like God is a dangerous twin. Black August to the mountaintop balcony on my bedroom floor. You know, they steal you from the earth itself and suspend you in your broken neck from their foolish euphoria, from the loyalty oath of their grave superstitions, loyalty oath of their agrarian reform. I return to my mother completely disrespected. For peeling the heat off of purgatory, they kill poets like me. Walk me away from my poems, never to be heard from again. In this final industrial complex of bloodlines picked over, picked through, a sport spiritual death, or your devil at least half made. Police become a pretty word. I'm reading a lynch mob shoestrings like they were tea leaves, teaching you how to write about cities. It's the 25th century in the mirror, people. Tyranny against your chump change, and you're a chump to be mocked, even with a gun in your car. A cupid of needlework, spelled tune for the proletariat, the relapse ministry. Talented people curled up in a fetal position next to a diamond dying. Just another service day in the theatrics of tea house fascism in a bouquet of surveillance cameras in the poverty of God, new blue eyes, corpses of water, a newly potted presidency, one big shining coin if you ask animated capitalism and other non-literal boards, killing his white freedom, the deification of hyphens, medicine bread and picture shows, great protesters in LA, guests of our ink, drop kicking rolls in the graveyard, DC mink like a stone torn in half, the pen advances, despite CIA guideposts, despite non-African past and futures, a metaphorical but not surreal day in a horn-written life, horn player improvising king, like a radio prize fight featuring Shango himself, a real hand sweeps the land of racism. Now return to the ground, now make progress with the gun, or our mother on manual they put on music that evening, a swinging type body language for you to drink with fermented $5 bills, for your body language, some applause, my past stomach lining, neither a good thing nor a bad thing, like being psychic on the way to a lethal injection. It'll sit you down with Lady Day. Lady Day leading youth who surrendered their souls to Africa too soon. Polity thought floating in the cup of water, she saved me, accessing my stomach, accessing the love of the American lynched. Coat sleeves, wooden and avalanche into the wrist, our mother or manual, avalanche into the sharp keys, pain. The deal you make with pain. Piano makes sense for them. Laying hands on the world gradually, addressing the bending necks on the streets of the North. Travelers sailing in pain, repeating pain in the North. 10 trigger fingers on that piano if harmony would have me. Putting 100 fights on every direction, offered her. Lady Day, leaning on trees again, recruiting the countryside itself, saying, lay your plan out on this lightning. Make your poems the corner pocket of men. I've greeted the blues itself. America may clean my dead body, but will never include me. There goes the poet. Killing without killing. Never mind this painting of your language. May I be a meaningful lynching. A crow's passing. Good and dead by the afternoon. The end.
This yeah, I don't even know what to say. Like, you know, before this what my sickness needed. No, for real though. Like
I got you.
I have coughed like twice. That's it. So you are a blessing, brother, and I'm honored and humbled to have you on the show. So I got a couple more questions for you. Then we're gonna go through what we call a little quick fire. Also, for those on the program today, if you have any questions for Tongo, please drop them in the chat and we'll go through them. But going back to your book, writing this book, were there any interesting like writing quirks that came out when you were writing this book?
Yeah, man, well, you know, some actionable intel, man. I got really lucky, man. I'll try to make this anecdote quick and useful.
Okay.
But man, you know, I was like really stuck for a while after the book before this one.
Right.
And it was just like you know, I'm always just looking for some kind of evolution. And I didn't know how I was going to get my hands on it. And I was like, I was trying to solve it too cerebrally. Or maybe even too kind of at too high a sea level, where I needed to get to even go even lower into the kind of like the processes of writing. And man, I just stumbled onto it. So I had this like last minute writing assignment. Like I had to write a poem. I didn't know that the gig was to write a poem. I thought it was just to go say the poems. It was at the Museum of the African Diaspora in the city. And so luckily somebody was like, I can't wait to hear that new poem tomorrow. And I was like, yes, new poem. So like luckily the exhibit was online. You can see pictures of it.
Yeah.
So I took so I had it up and I put on this Coltrane record, Out of This World. I had never heard before. And it filled me up with like a lot of energy between the exhibit and the music. And usually I run away from energy or don't want it. I like to write.
Really?
Yeah, I like to write flat, man.
Gotcha.
Then I know I'm not getting high off of anything, you know?
Right. Yeah, I hear you.
Like through sobriety is lucidity. You know what I mean? Lucidity of craft, you know? Exactly. Like you don't have, you know, it's like when it's like that's the same reason why I stay away from coffee. Like when you're too elevated, you actually start tunneling.
Gotcha.
So you know, I'm like, I don't want this. But man, there's this little trick. Actually, it comes from Pema's children, who is a nun in the Tibetan lineage of Tibetan Buddhism, She got this little saying, drop the story, stick with the energy.
Mm.
So it's like, if you look at like kind of emotions as really just kind of sensations married to trains of thought that, you know, can take over.
Yeah.
So what you can do is, when you find yourself kind of being overwhelmed, you can boycott the conversation and just use your attention to just list to yourself the sensations that you're literally feeling in the moment, second for second. Like your stomach is like, okay, you're mad, okay, so like, what is literally happening?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? What are you literally feeling second for second? Are you sad or this, whatever? And so, man, I found that actually worked, man, on a microphone. Because you can find yourself, especially, you know, when you write like how we write, this is like very overwhelming. This is just as overwhelming for me as it is for you, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, well, how do you get through it? Well, you can stop trying to say the poem. You can stop trying to do anything, and just for a split second, just run down a list of all the little sensations you're feeling, and what feels overwhelming, that crampedness will dissipate, and you'll be left with all of this cooperative energy. And something just told me to do the same, but now that's for saying the poems. Something just told me to try it out writing, which now seems counterintuitive, right? Because it's like, how you gonna not think? Like, how you gonna try to not pay attention? But what happens if you actually split it up to where, you know, so it's like, I list the kind of the current physical reality of myself, and then let actually more subconscious voices cough up lines. And then when the line is down, put your attention back in kind of like that meditative aspiration, and then just let it do it again and again. And so it's like, well, what happens is it actually short circuits that more conspiratorial voice that you have, which is where a lot of writer's block actually happens.
Yeah.
Because it's just like this never-ending quest to
tell a story.
Well, just say you putting it a lot more diplomatically. I was gonna say to like enforce personal vendetta. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That if you calm that down, or distract that kind of conspiratorial train with this kind of like with the upkeep, or just keeping track of physical sensation, like all the other voices have reigned, and you find that what you thought was just like that kind of chatter that doesn't comes from nowhere, goes to nowhere, that doesn't seem to have any rhyme or reason. With a pen in your hand, it actually has pretty interesting and insightful things to say. And so that was like a major turning point. So that like in like in the past, you know, books would be written over real long periods of time. Now there are some poems from this book that were, you know, kind of straggled in early, but the majority of it was written after this kind of discovery of a strategy, and that's how it, you know, the heavy lifting of it manifested, you know.
I love that, man. Scraping down to what's the real upset, right? Pulling out all of that, or like you said, all the story, and coming down right from that energy. That is, as I said in the chat, you guys are getting jewels dropped. So make sure attention. We're gonna get to some of the questions that the chat has, but okay. So now we're gonna go to my weird questions, as I call them. So 3 people in the elevator. You know, you're going to be in an elevator, stuck in an elevator for 3 hours with 3 people, and you can choose whoever you want. Who would those 3 people be?
Me plus 3?
No, you plus 3. Yeah.
And I gotta have my brother back. Biko got to come in the elevator. You know what I'm saying? Mom's got to come in the elevator. You know. Now who would be the? Man, there's so many. 3 hours. See, I feel like some would do more listening and talking. Who would be a nice and talkative?
Well,
Like I wanted to say, like I really wanted to say Malcolm X, you know,
but that's what I'm saying.
but I heard from people who knew him that in like a social setting, he would just listen. He was doing way more listening than talking. I wouldn't want to just sit there getting on Malcolm X's nerves. Let's go with let's Fela Kuti.
Yes.
I spent 3 hours you know, for sure.
Nice. You'd come out of it different. All right, so next question. So we're gonna bring Malcolm back into it. So out of these three, one has have to have never existed. Which one would you choose?
Ooh.
Martin, Malcolm, Obama.
Never existed?
Yeah.
Not even a question. And I wish no destruction upon a human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, in the sense of,
but man, don't make me do an impression. You know, we definitely know who does not need to have strolled. You know,
okay, I got you. That's all understood.
Although you never know, man. You know, like remember Star Wars, you know, Darth Vader was actually a crucial ingredient. You know what I'm saying?
He was. That's true. That's true. A lot wouldn't happen if
the story is not over, man. You know what I'm saying?
That is very true.
That brother might see the light one day. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Let me jump through some of these chat questions. And then I'm gonna end it with with our quick fire round. So let me try and reach back here. Okay, so this is coming from Elizabeth Jimenez, Montelongo. When and where is your next generative poetry workshop?
Ooh. I don't think I have one.
Okay.
Dang, let's do one.
There you go. You know, put that in my I'm putting that down. And the next one she had to run, but she said, what advice do you have to youth revolutionaries?
Well, man, as a so in no order of priority, you have to get a grounding in the basics, you know, the classics, you know, and studying. Political education is crucial. Is everything really. Right. You know, in many ways, your action is really just a tool of developing your theoretical framework. You know, the objective is really. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just gonna say, in that, are there places not to go to? Are there places you should shy away from because that'll, you know, that'll impact you?
I tell you who I look at. I look at Amilcar Cabral. I'd look at Ho Chi Minh. I would read Assata Shakur's autobiography. I would read Lenin's What Is to Be Done. You know, don't be scared of the don't fear the Marxism. You know? You know, I'd look at the Zapatistas. Okay. You know, I look at the Black Panthers. But I also keep a study of current event going. I would keep two threads of study going. One, kind of these kind of what you call classic revolutionary theory. Right. Two, study kind of the current picture, you know, I mean, from, you know, geopolitical down to, you know, the local situation.
Right.
And there are a lot of, there are a lot of good sources. Black Agenda Report.com is good. Real News Network is cool. You know, really, man, you know what I'm gonna tell you is this, you know what you should do? This is a shortcut. There are people, for example, like, you know, great revolutionary named Kali Akuno, Kali, and last name Akuno, right? What you do is you follow them, and you just, they are constantly curating news on their pages.
Exactly.
And you just go to there and you just look at all of the sites that they're taking their articles from, and you just bookmark all of those sites and run through those sites. And, you know, you just follow a good news junkie. They'll show you where the info is. And so, but do this collectively.
Yeah.
I would study collectively.
Okay.
You know? So you don't just, not just to yourself, like, you know. So for example, and I saw that Arlene asked to me to speak about Parker Elementary School. So like, so real quick, we took over a school in Oakland that they were going to close. We've been occupying it for over 2 months now. And so one of the things we do there is Solidarity Sundays. And so every Sunday we have political educations and trainings and this type of thing. And one of the things we have is a current events reading group. So we just come, we have an article, we read it together and talk about it. You know, it can be as simple as that, you know. I would find even if it's a single issue like extrajudicial killing, you know, police brutality, if it's, you know, dealing with issues of gentrification, whatever, you can find a single issue to engage with. Like, it's important, like your personal development accelerates greatly through practice. Because we can have all the, you know, we can have all the theory in the world, but we don't synthesize it for ourselves or recreate it for ourselves until we're actually putting it into the three dimensions.
Right.
And so keeping a, you know, I mean, ultimately we all really need to be in some kind of organization, you know. I would find one, you know, and I would just err on the side of being annoyed and aggravated. We all start somewhere. Organizations all start somewhere. So if you show up and it's just not perfect, that's fine. Do the best you can with it. You know what I mean? This is the only way to really learn, though. Like, the perfect revolutionary situation never falls out of the sky. That's just never how it happens. We're presented, because we kind of like, we're presented reality in a very magical way, you know. Like, the United States as a concept descended from the divine white imagination. You know what I mean? Or we're given these magic, they deify people, like this group of people or this cat right here, you know, and having internalized it, having been brainwashed in that way, we kind of look for our version of it.
Right. So
we want this, you know, there has to be this perfect revolutionary or these perfect revolutionary situations or something that's just not how anything works.
Like a revolution out of numbers.
You know what I mean? That's not even how oppression works. In fact, this is why oppression is actually always weak, and why history is the graveyard of empires, you know, because it's almost accident after accident after accident after accident. So I would join something. Now, I'll also mind my internal cultivation, right? For me, it's meditation, hinted at, you know, reading the Pema Children, or a good. I also enjoy reading who she studied under, this cat named Trungpa Rinpoche.
Mm.
You know, all these kind of texts, man. Anything that's just basically like the path towards being a nicer person to yourself and others. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whatever that does, whatever that has to be, but or whatever helps you dissolve your commitment to personal territory.
Right.
Whatever helps you dissolve that.
Right.
Dissolve that commitment, that run with that, but that's crucial too.
Yeah.
um
These are jewels, man. I appreciate that. There's a couple other questions in here. What was your hardest poem you've ever had to write?
Or can you be more specific?
Who wrote this? This is coming from, I don't know if Brandon's still on, but Brandon, you can put some more context in the chat.
Yeah. Emotionally hard. Man, I wrote a poem the day after my father died. That was hard. But I just what I do? I stripped away almost like objectives of I stripped away the need for logic. I don't know how to put it exactly.
No, that makes sense.
But I just relaxed onto the fragment, just deployed a lot of fragment.
And was this a poem for like a eulogy type thing, or was it just you writing?
No, I was just writing.
Yeah. One other question for you. Neil Moody says you refer to many figures in African American history like Malcolm, especially jazz, Monk, Billie Holiday. Did you inherit that knowledge or acquire it?
Well, I'm sorry. Say that.
Did you inherit that knowledge or did you acquire it?
Yeah, I guess it depends on how you look at it. Everything works in mysterious ways. You know what I'm saying?
The universe will find its way. All right. Well, I'm going to start to end this up with what I call my quick fire round. And quick fire round, there's a couple of words I'm going to say, and I just want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
All right.
Cool. First word, God.
Damn.
Freedom.
Fighter.
Tupac.
Shakur.
Oh, good. Magic.
Johnson.
Gil Scott Heron.
Go.
Religion.
Problematic.
Greek mythology.
Problematic.
I thought you were going to say not existent. Hip hop.
Hooray.
San Francisco.
Imperialist.
Black woman.
God.
Poetry.
Man, I know. I look in my mind because
All right, whatever you can share.
Tshaka.
Oh, here you go. Universe.
Us.
Father.
Us.
Last one is Kendrick Lamar.
Groovy.
All right. I love it. I love it. All right, brother. Look, this has been not only amazing, but it has been therapeutic. I tell you, for the folks on the call, I found out about 2 days ago that I got the vid. But this is something that I absolutely wanted to do. I've been waiting for it for so long, and this has been healing. Like you said, like I've been coughing, dude. I've been coughing for days. I've coughed 4 times since we've been on this call. So,
Man.
like what that tell you?
Man, hey, I appreciate you powering through, man.
This was needed. Not, and when I look at this is not. I mean, yes, it's for me. It's also for the show that we're putting on, and it's
Right.
for all these folks that are on the call and that will touch this later on. You are needed, brother. You are so needed, and any way that I can help to amplify that, be part of that, push that, run out here and put your book on people's doorsteps, whatever can be done. You let me know, because we need to get the fog. We need to remove the fog. You know what I mean?
Right.
Definitely.
Right on.
All right. Now, Rob, I don't know if there's anything you have to close us up with, but, again, thank you to Poetry Center San Jose for putting, for creating a platform for this, for Beautiful Black Books, BBB. And we will probably see you next month. Yeah. Any closing words from you, Rob?
We're good. We're good. Thank you so much, Tshaka. Thank you so much, Tongo.
Right on.
You, Tshaka.
All right, Tongo, we got a link, man. You are too close for me not to sink in all that you got to offer, dude. So I am going to make that change.
Man, shoot, let me know if you need something from the store, man. I'll get it to you, man.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. All right, thanks everyone for joining. Tongo, you had a good rest of your day. I'm gonna go lay down, try and fight this thing.
Man, rest up, man.
Definitely. All right.
It'll pass though.
All right, bless, man. It will.
All right.
All right, folks.
All right. Respect now.
Peace.
Yeah.